Starting a brand new sketchbook can be daunting. I compiled a few tips that will hopefully make it easier for you to face the fear of the pristine blank notebook. Tip 1 is to actually start on the first page. You might be tempted to skip it and fill it in later when you feel more confident, but from my experience, the later never comes and the page stays blank forever. Just write the date you started the sketchbook on and leave some space to mark when you finished it. You can take it up a notch and swatch your favorite tools to see how the paper takes them. Plus, swatches aren't good or bad, they just exist, which makes it a great thing to fill the first page with. I kept checking how well the paper takes the swatches, and it did really well. Apart from, of course, alcohol markers, which I use a lot. I have a workaround to the bleed, which ties in with my next tip. Customize the sketchbook to fit your personal needs. The reason why I'm able to get full spreads, even though I use alcohol markers often, is because I skip every second spread to hide the bleed blobs. You might argue that this is a waste of paper, and I can see where you're coming from. But in my older sketchbooks, I would draw on the right side of the spread, get the bleed on the next left side, and continue drawing on the next right side because I was too bothered about the scary bleed stains. I was skipping those pages anyway, and I ended up abandoning most of my sketchbooks after a couple of pages because I couldn't draw a whole spread. Then I started doing the skip a spread method. I'd stick the two ugly pages together and I managed to finish a whole sketchbook since then. If you have a solution to a hurdle that often stops you from using your sketchbooks, use it. No matter what other people might think. A sketchbook is your place. Use it however you please. Hey, I'll even allow you to skip the first page if it really helps you. A fun thing to add to the first page is a little note to yourself to remind you what you'd like to use your sketchbook for. Maybe set goals on what you'd like to practice in it. I knew I needed to remind myself that I will inevitably end up with drawings I hate, more on that soon, but that there will also be stuff that I love and that most of the drawings will fall somewhere in between. And that's perfectly okay. The very first page is finished, but we're just getting started. I will also give you tips on how to fill a full spread. As you can see, I skipped the spread in between and am moving on to the fresh new one. My next tip is to draw something you're currently obsessed with. It can be a show, book, song, place, time period. I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once for the first time a couple of days ago. I know, I'm late to the party, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So naturally, I decided to draw Deirdre. I chose her because A, I find her yellow accountant attire amazing, and B, she's played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who I love. Funny thing is that I didn't know anything about the film beforehand, just that a lot of people like it. So when Deirdre appeared, I was like, huh, she kinda resembles Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh! If you by any chance haven't seen it yet, I recommend you to not look anything up about it either. Just watch it. That's also why I won't tell you anything about the second character I will draw. All you need to know is that from the second half of the film, I cried non-stop. I cried so much I got a migraine the next day. But I don't want to ruin the film for you by giving you high expectations, so you should also know that I cry a lot. Even a slight emotional scene wrecks me. This is the part where I admit that I actually really hated this drawing. I was tempted to grab some gouache and paint over it so that I don't have to look at it anymore. But I advise you to keep the ugly drawings. The magical thing about sketchbook spreads is that the good drawings usually overshadow the bad ones. And when you're looking at the spread as a whole, it just works. Just keep them and keep going. One thing I love to do in my sketchbooks is to go to randomstreetview.com, be thrown into a random location, and try to draw it. I'm quite lenient about the rules, but you can make some up to fit your needs, like no skipping allowed, what you get is what you're stuck with. I usually scout a location that speaks to me in some way, and I allow myself to click around a bit to get the perfect composition. For my first location, I chose this autumn village scene in Bulgaria. I fell in love with the colors of the trees in the background, and I knew they will work well with the Deirdre portrait color-wise. I used the same yellow marker for her top and for some of the yellow trees. Using the same colors throughout your entire spread, even if it's just a tiny spot here and there, helps to keep the spread consistent. The sad thing is that I wasn't too satisfied with the landscape painting either. I liked it way more than the portrait, but I think I made all of the parts of the piece too busy. It doesn't really have a focal point, but that's okay. I'm not drawing a masterpiece, it's still a sketch. I later came back and added some more details, but now let's concentrate on my second random street view location, this cool building in Geneva, which I discovered by accident when I clicked further than I wanted to. A super lovely building in reality, but yet again, I felt like my art wasn't portraying it the way I wanted it to, and I was starting to get frustrated. Did I forget how to draw? Should I even be filming a video on how to fill a sketchbook? Tip number 8 is to take a break when you need it and when you feel like you're getting frustrated with your art rather than enjoying the process. Alternatively, you can just do what I did, and that is to do whatever. The spread already looks so I can just draw whatever I want. Sketching? Who needs sketching? Just get straight to it with a marker. A letter won't fit? Whatever, it's limo instead of lemon, and yes, it's extra sour because that's how I feel right now. A lopsided apple? Whatever, it's there. Let's add a scared leek too. A can of sad sardines is a great addition. And you know what? A funny thing happened. By letting go of all the expectations, I started to enjoy the process again. And this part of the spread, the sad shop groceries, became my favorite part of the entire thing. And that fact had an influence on the other parts of it too. Suddenly, looking at the portrait didn't fill me with the urge to cover it with black marker. The village view was quite lovely. The Geneva building was still crooked, but in a charming way. I added a grumpy shopper because you have to be grumpy to shop in the sad shop on Woe Street. I don't think I've ever drawn a shopping cart, so that was super fun. I decided to use oil pastels to add some texture. I still don't know how to properly use them, and some of them are incredibly greasy, which I think they're not supposed to be, but that's okay. I'm in the whatever part of the process, so if I mess it up completely, it doesn't matter. And I think I didn't mess up. I actually love this shopper with her little bright red cart. The spread is almost done. There's just a few blank spots left to fill. And you know what? Both you and I have done a lot already. I think we deserve a treat. That is, to fill the empty spaces with our comfort subjects. A comfort drawing would be something you draw often, something you don't feel stressed or challenged by, because you know it will end up looking decent. I chose a simple potted plant. If you missed the challenge though, and find your comfort drawings boring, well, here's my last tip. Draw the stuff you hate, the thing you like to avoid as much as possible, the one that haunts you in your nightmares. For me, it's cars. They're too industrial, require too many straight lines, and I'm just not good at them. So naturally, I drew them. This is a real-time audio snippet of me struggling. Oh, what is this? Poor thing. Oh my god. Okay, whatever. But hey, for what it's worth, I think I did okay. And I'm sure you will too. Draw the thing you're afraid of. I know that starting a new sketchbook makes you feel like you have to perform well right from the start, but that's not what it's about. You should mainly have fun, challenge yourself artistically, and be excited about where this little notebook will take you. So stop putting it off, grab that new shiny book, and use it!